So we're taking a deep dive into The Exorcist. Are you ready for this one? This one is a classic. And it still gets under people's skin even after all this time. We're talking about a film that's got all, creepy moments, amazing special effects. But it's also more than that, right? Our sources really get into how this film impacted culture and why it's considered a horror masterpiece.
Well, yeah, and I think what makes The Exorcist so fascinating is that it stays with you. It's not just cheap thrills. It gets under your skin and it stays with you long after the credits roll.
Yeah.
It makes you think about things.
Right. And it all starts in such a surprising place. Like, we don't begin in a haunted house or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Iraq with Father Merrin.
Yeah.
Setting the stage right from the start.
That opening in Iraq is so important. It introduces us to Pazuzu, the demon. And it immediately tells us this isn't just any ordinary haunting. This is ancient evil. This is something that's been around for centuries. And the fact that Father Merrin finds that Pazuzu statue, it's like a warning sign, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's foreshadowing.
Total foreshadowing. And then, boom, we're in Georgetown. We meet the McNeil family.
Yeah.
And they seem so normal at first, so relatable.
Exactly. That's part of what makes it so terrifying. Because the film goes out of its way to show us this is a loving family, a close-knit family. They're not dysfunctional. There's no, cracks in the foundation. They're just a family.
Which makes you wonder,
Yeah.
if it could happen to them.
Exactly. It could happen to anyone.
Right.
And I think it plays on those fears, those universal fears we all have.
Right.
About the unknown, about our loved ones, about things we can't understand. And you have to remember, it's the 1970s. There's a lot going on. You have the sexual revolution, you have Vietnam, there's this undercurrent of anxiety in the culture about the world changing too fast.
Yeah.
About traditional values being challenged.
Yeah.
And the film kind of reflects that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And it draws you in slowly, like
Yeah.
Reagan's early symptoms.
Mhm.
She's having trouble sleeping, she's irritable. I mean, what parent can't relate to that, right? But you start to wonder, is it just teenage angst? Or is it something more?
That ambiguity is what's so effective. Is
Yeah.
it just, teenagers being teenagers, or something more sinister going on? And it makes you question what you're seeing, what you're hearing. Like that scene where Reagan's bed starts shaking, it's
Yeah.
brilliant because it preys on that fear, when we feel helpless, when we can't protect the ones we love.
Right.
It's very primal, that fear.
It is. And it just keeps escalating.
Yes.
Those subtle changes in her behavior.
Yeah.
It's like, something's wrong, you just can't deny it anymore.
Right. And that's where we start to see the film really dive into those themes of faith,
Yeah.
doubt, the nature of evil itself. It
Yeah.
starts to ask those bigger questions.
This is where Father Karras enters the picture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's battling his own demons.
Yeah,
And I think that's part of what makes him such a fascinating character.
absolutely. Karras represents this tension between faith and reason.
Right.
It was such a big part of the cultural conversation in the 70s.
Oh, totally.
Like, he's a priest.
Right.
He's a man of God, but he's also a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So he's trying to reconcile those two worlds.
Right.
Trying to make sense of things.
And the demon picks up on that, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it uses his guilt over his mother's death against him.
Exactly. It's not just brute force with the demon, it's psychological warfare.
Oh, for sure.
It gets inside his head, and it uses his deepest fears against him.
Which makes it so much more terrifying, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because it becomes so personal.
Right. It's not just some external force. It's like feeding off of his own trauma.
Exactly.
Okay, but can we talk about the special effects?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And they're still effective, even all these years later.
Absolutely. The Exorcist really pushed the boundaries when it came to special effects, and it's amazing how they did it back then. Yeah.
Like the makeup they used to transform Linda Blair into Reagan possessed, it was revolutionary.
It's crazy how realistic it still looks.
Right. I mean, the detail is incredible. Like the
Yeah.
way they contorted her features, the sickly pallor, it's also disturbing.
Totally. And then there's that head spinning scene. I mean, come on.
It's iconic.
It's burned into my brain forever.
It's one of those images that just stays with you.
For sure. But it's not just the big, shocking moments.
Right.
It's those quieter moments, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the way Reagan's voice changes.
Yes.
Or when she speaks in tongues.
It's so unsettling.
It's like you can feel her humanity slipping away.
Exactly. And the filmmakers were so smart about how they used those effects.
Yeah.
It's not gratuitous. It's all about creating a sense of dread, of encroaching evil, like in that scene with the doctors,
Oh, yeah.
where they're examining Reagan.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what's wrong with her.
You're completely baffled.
It's like science and reason have no power here.
Exactly. And it forces them
Yeah.
to confront the possibility
Yeah.
that there are things out there that we just can't explain.
Right. It's like the ultimate nightmare, you know.
It is.
Your child is sick
Yeah.
and nobody knows how to help.
And it really pushes Chris and the audience to consider the unthinkable.
The possibility of demonic possession.
Exactly.
Which brings us to
A heart of the film.
the exorcism.
Yeah.
The exorcism in this film, I mean, it's legendary.
It's iconic.
It's intense, it's scary,
Yeah.
and it's just so well done.
It really is like a cinematic tour de force, you know?
Right.
The way it's shot, the sound design, the
Okay.
performance, everything just comes together to create this overwhelming sense of dread.
Totally. And it's not just like psychological, right? The demon is very much a physical presence.
Right.
Like the room turns freezing cold.
Yeah.
Things are flying around.
Exactly.
You really get the sense that this entity is right there in the room with them.
Absolutely. It's not just messing with their minds. This is a real battle, a battle for souls.
Yeah.
Between good and evil, you know?
It's heavy stuff.
It is, and it takes a toll on everyone involved. Even Father Merrin, who's faced this kind of darkness before,
Right.
and his death during the exorcism, it shows you just how dangerous this is.
Yeah. Like how much is at stake?
Exactly.
And then Kara, he sees Marin fall. And he steps up to protect Reagan,
Right.
sacrificing himself to save her.
And that's such a powerful moment, isn't it? Oh, it gets me every time.
It's the emotional climax of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Because he confronts his own demons, you know?
Literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And in that final act of selflessness,
Yeah.
he finds redemption.
Yeah. But that ending, though, I don't know, there's something about it.
What do you mean?
I mean, Reagan's free from the demon, right? She's back to her old self. But it's never quite a happy ending, is it?
Right, it's not your typical Hollywood ending.
No.
There's this lingering sense of unease.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because even though Reagan's physically recovered, the trauma's still there.
Right.
And Chris's decision to move,
Yeah.
to leave Georgetown, it tells you they can't just go back to their old lives. It's like they've been forever changed by this experience. So after all of this, after diving deep into this film,
Yeah.
why do you think The Exorcist still has such a hold on us? Why are we still talking about it? Why does it still have the power to scare us?
Well, I think it's a few things. I mean, the special effects were groundbreaking at the time, and they still hold up pretty well today.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I think it goes deeper than that. The Exorcist tapped into something primal,
Okay?
our deepest fears about the unknown, about the fragility of our own humanity.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes you question what you believe.
Right.
And that's what makes it a true masterpiece of horror.
It's more than just a horror film, though, isn't it? It's this cultural phenomenon
Exactly.
that really sparked a conversation about faith, doubt, the power of belief. It's a film that stays with you long after you've seen it. And I think that's why people are still drawn to it.
Absolutely.
So, if you haven't seen The Exorcist, maybe give it a watch, if you dare. And if you have seen it, maybe it's time for another visit to Father Merrin, to Regan, to the heart of darkness that
Okay.
The Exorcist so brilliantly reveals.